so welcome. You don't need your mat yet. I'm Kim Beekman. Thank you for coming to this beautiful gathering of yogis to explore the concepts around Ayurveda, finding balance through Ayurveda. We're going to actually start with pranayama, with some breath work. And the reason why we're going to do that is because, as I just said, I'd love for you to get out of left brain analysis mode, you know, thinking, what is this? What am I? Who is this? What? You know, all that stuff. And to shift to the other side of the brain, the right side of the brain, which is this energetic sense of presence. Because when we're in that place, we can assimilate information in a very different way, in a very much more practical way. So let's do that. Those who are not done with the surveys, I know you want to finish, especially you pittas. But I'm just going to ask that you release that and go ahead and get a straight spine and release your form and just release it and just sit with a straight spine. Close your eyes. Coming into your normal breath. Just normal breath. All paper and cars and logistics aside. Breathe into that space, the base of your chest. Feel your breath. Lengthen your breath a little bit. And as you exhale, let your body relax. Try to come into stillness. If you're still moving, just sit yourself in the stillness. Finding yourself annoyed with the clock, become one with the clock. Just breathe into the clock. Just a couple more breaths. Deep breath into the belly and then exhale through the mouth with a bit of a ha. Just one more of those. Nice. Thank you. Welcome. I'm going to start by thanking Katie Menz and Ashley Crawford and Molly and Chris and everybody here at the Y for helping me be able to make this possible, and to all of you for your donation. I think we made like close to $1,000 for the scholarship fund. So we're like learning and we're doing good. It's very yoga of us. So we're all here to learn about Ayurveda, and what's going to happen today is you filled out your forms. If you haven't, you can go back to filling out your forms and totaling up the columns. That's pretty important, so you know what to focus your energy and your attention on throughout this time. And I'm going to speak about the 3 different doshas, but really 7 different Ayurvedic types, because when you combine the different doshic types, and if you don't know what dosha is, I'm going to explain what that means. But I'm going to go into all of those types and the kind of the great points about each of the types and some of the imbalanced features of the types. And hopefully while we're going through this, you're trying yourself on, and then you're seeing your husband, and then your teenage kid, and your mother, you know, and through it, hopefully you're able to you're able to really begin to try on the types, and even if one you're not heavy in, or don't have a large number in one of the columns, then you're trying on the person that's in your life that does have the large number in that column, so that you can just begin to play with these concepts and begin to apply them. Especially the yoga teachers in the room. I'm so glad that we're all here, because this is really powerful as we teach yoga as well. So if you don't mind turning off your cell phones when you get a chance. Ayurveda is, I think it may be divided anywhere between a 2,000-year-old science and a 5,000-year-old science. And it's the science of life and longevity. And so just like how Chinese medicine came out of China, and we all know about acupuncture, right? This is an ancient Eastern philosophy and medicine, and it's very holistic, Chinese medicine. Ayurveda came down from the Vedas and arose and has been around in India for thousands of years. And it's just starting to make it over to the West, because we're all very asana, posture, yoga focused, right? And like we love our warrior twos, and we've committed as a society to like yoga may do some good for us. And so now it's integrating into our country, into society. And now Ayurveda is starting to make its way in. And Deepak Chopra is doing a lot on Ayurveda and is really helping to maintain the integrity of the Eastern philosophy, which I think is really beautiful. Even his Oprah, 21-day meditation it really is if you're a yoga teacher and you're listening to that, you're like, oh, that's what Dharana is, or that's what Dhyana and Samadhi is. So the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are right there based on what's now coming to the West, and we're putting this into practice. And so I first found Ayurveda a few years ago, and just quickly I'll tell you my story of why I fell in love with it. I found it a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when I had 3 babies within 4.5 years of each other. And my 3rd baby came to me with a genetic metabolic disorder where if she went more than 3 hours without eating, she could die. So that would basically depleted the heck out of my body. I was fried. I would go to every healer in town. I've been to every healer in town, but every healer I'd go to was like, yes, you're severely depleted. Yes, you have fatigue adrenals. You have this, I'm like, great, I'm broken. Thank you. What do I do? And so what that did, I had a yoga practice at that point, but what that did was make me step out of my life, because really I was breastfeeding at the time, and if I didn't have energy, if I didn't take care of myself, I wouldn't have breast milk, and my kid literally could die. Like, no drama here, like literally she would not make it. And so what it allowed me to do was step off the hamster wheel of life. Like really, no more play dates, no more kinder music for the toddlers, no more socializing because it took too much, no more friendships that drained me, no more really anything. Everything got cleared out of my life, so that all that was left was me and the baby and maybe few toddlers around the house and my husband. And so that, as we all know, with every traumatic thing that happens in our life, if we just go underneath it, there's so much wisdom to be gained from all of the difficulties we've been through. And for me, that was when I discovered Ayurveda. And I just so happened, Bridget Shea Kinder is a acupuncturist in town, and she has studied Ayurveda, and she had her teacher come to town who was a 19th generation something, I don't even know, Veda, I don't know. And so I was like, I'm gonna get me an appointment with that woman. And that appointment actually was where my healing process began, because it was the first time I left a healer without feeling broken. And it was the first time I was able to sit and understand my body and just see it as these are the things that are out of balance. And these are the things I can do for myself, not just get needled and not, you know, be a passive participant in my healing, but like actually actively be able to do something for myself. So I didn't have to sit around feeling broken all the time, because that's really how I felt. I just felt like there wasn't much prana coming in. I practice. I have this joke I say in yoga class. I would still go to yoga class. I would just sit in child's pose and cry for an hour and a half. It was at least like my mat in my cave. And so that's what I believe Ayurveda can give us, is a very deep understanding of ourselves in a very objective way, so we can stop the judgment and the fear and the self-punishment and the crap that we pull with ourselves on a daily basis because of our beliefs about our body. And we can just come to some level of peace. Now, once we get to there, we can actually start balancing our body based on our self-knowledge, but I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not a vitamin, supplement, herb kind of person. I always bought them, but never took them. And so this woman gave me all this whole herbal regimen to take home, and I've got all my powders, and I did not take one of those herbs that I spent like $300 for. But I can tell you that my healing still began because what I got through Ayurveda was a deep, nourishing level of self-knowledge that has really carried me and stopped a lot of the stuff in my head about my body and my energy and my emotions and all this stuff. It was just like, oh right, that's just how I work. Like, oh, okay, this is how I work, and this is one of the 5 things that I can do for myself because I'm out of balance today. Do you see what I mean? So that's what I hope to be able to bring to you today by the end of the program. I have to tell you, I have the foundations of yoga, of Ayurveda training. I am not an Ayurvedic doctor. You actually have to be a medical doctor and then specialize in Ayurveda. I self-studied Ayurveda for about 1.5 years, and then I went and studied for 2 weeks at the Shivananda ashram to become a certified Ayurvedic wellness counselor. And they call it a wellness lifestyle counselor because I'm not certified. I could tell you whether your illness is related to this specific dosha or that specific dosha, but I am not qualified to tell you how to heal your illness. I am a wellness counselor. I can tell you when things start to get unbalanced, what it is and what are some of the things that you can do to bring yourself back into wellness. So I just wanted to kind of set expectations realistically. I am a wellness counselor. I can look at people's lives and identify the areas that are throwing a dosha or an element, air, fire, earth, out of balance, and then help kind of guide you, maybe even like right now, here and now, today, to help build balance back in. There are many, the Ayurvedic perspective is that illness arises through stress. Emotional stress, physical stress, stressful thoughts, blocked belief systems, blocked chakras. Your chakras are your energetic systems. So they believe that there's energetic pathways, much like Chinese medicine. There's energetic pathways in the body, and there's little marmas or energetic, points. They would be called acupuncture points in Chinese medicine, but there's marma points throughout the body, and there's the chakras, which are like the transformers of energy that connect the energetic body with the mental body, with the emotional, with the physical. So that's all kind of pulled together in the chakra system, and energy is moving throughout the body along these energy pathways. And so whether it's physical stress and trauma that's gone, 3 pregnancies, that's that your body has gone through, whether you've gone through physical gallbladder stuff or thyroid or whatever it is that happens to us, emotional trauma, throwing our emotions or our physical body out of balance, that stress within our lives essentially is what creates imbalance and therefore creates disease. And so the way that we prevent disease and prevent illness is by creating that, continuously creating that energetic balance within our bodies. It's all kind of common sense, right? But you with me? Okay. So there's 3 doshas. This is where if you have that little sheet with the tiny, tiny, tiny writing. I have it here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll be pointing to things. Just if you want to reference them, but then look back up at me because I need a lot of validation. It's true. Okay. Usually I don't hand out the sheets because I lose people because they're like this, but today I realized like there's no getting around it. So there's the Vata element here. Vata, V-A-T-A. People start saying Pata and Vita and, all right, Vata. Vata is, in this first box I'm at, right? Vata is the air and ether element. So those of you who are familiar with the chakras, we know that air and ether are these upper chakras. So Vata is air within our body. The purpose of air, think of fall, moving leaves. The purpose of air is to move through the body, okay? The air in the body circulates the other 2 elements in the body. The nature, so this is one of the most fascinating parts of Ayurveda. Ayurveda talks about qualities of the body. There's actually 21 qualities they talk about, but we're just going to focus on 4 because my training focused on the first 4. I'll learn more another time. But when you know my body type, you're going to understand why I just kind of want to stay at the higher level. So the Vata body type is air and likes to move. And the qualities of Vata are cold. So Vata is cold. If you think of like someone blowing on you, there's cool air. So Vata is actually cold and it's dry. Air is drying, right? If you go out, you get a wind, you get chapped lips. So it's cold, it's dry, it's mobile. Air is mobile, right? It's moving, and it's light, like hot air balloon. Well, no, hot air balloon has fire. All right, like a helium balloon, right? Like light, it's light. And so those are the qualities. I'm gonna start applying these in a second, but if you could just try on the qualities of air and think about air in the body. Okay, I'm gonna show you what air in the body looks like in a minute. So that's Vata. Pitta is the quality of fire and water, but mostly this is our fire element. Those of you who know chakras know that the fire is right here in the upper belly, right? The 3rd chakra is where there's fire. Water's right here. And so fire is hot, right? And there's an oily aspect of lighting, you know, oil to fire. And so some of these are going to be intuitive and some of them is going to be like, okay, they're oil and fire. So the unique aspect of Pitta is that it's hot. And if you look over here, the unique aspect of Vata is it's dry. That's why those are starred. And Pitta is 2. It's also mobile, like fire moves, and it's light. There's this lightness to fire, okay? So fire is hot, and it's oily, and it's moving, and it's light, okay? Got it. Now, the purpose of fire, or what fire does, is it transforms, okay? Fire is transformative. It turns wood into ash. It turns your food into energy in your body. So that is the element of fire and the purpose of fire in the body. It transforms. And the last element is kapha. Kapha is cold, but not like cold to the bone, cold like Vata. It's just kind of cold. It's wet, but not oily wet like Pitta. It's just wet. It's steady and grounded. It's got like a grounded energy to it. And it's heavy. there's this heaviness. It's like energy going. So mobile and light right here in Vata Pitta is like, right? Kapha energy is heavier, it's downward, okay? And so it's steady, it's not very moving, and it's heavy. Now, this is associated with the element of earth, but it's earth water, and if you think of what earth mixed with water is, it's mucus, sorry, right? So mucus is kind of an earthy water. You know, I don't want to get confusing, but oil is also a heavy water too, right? But here, think mucus. Kapha, think mucus. Think bodily fluid. So the purpose of kapha is to sustain. It holds and it sustains. Now this is like your connective tissue within the cells. It's what keeps the cells together. It's what keeps your joints together. It's fluidity and connectiveness. Okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What's your name?
Judith.
June?
Judith.
Judith. Come here, Judith. Do you want to block?
Walk?
Block. Do you want to block? Oh, no. Can you get in so the camera can see you too? This is Judith. So Judith is mainly a Vata. Your hands run cold?
Yes.
Your skin get dry?
Extremely dry.
Okay. So I'm not going to talk about you, but for me, I've got some Vata. I get constipated because there's not a lot of wetness in my stool. Okay? So it's cold. You get cold all the way down to the bone. You get cold. Winter and fall is like kind of painful because fall there's a lot of wind and air, and take a breezy cold winter day and you're like freezing. So for Vatas, and I just want you to look at Judith because I want you to get a sense of what Vata looks like. And I knew she was one of the few Vatas in my room, So I'm just going to talk about her, and I want you to look at her instead of the paper. And I'm going to be reading off of the paper, but just try her on.
I am really so Vata. It's really true.
Yeah. Right, and Vatas know they're Vata, so I have to tell you this story. I was at the ashram, right? And those of us, so I'm half Vata, half Pitta. But I have Vata, and my creativity and my is my Vata. And so Vatas have creativity and this playfulness. So this is why I was thinking for you, John. You have a lot of Vata. You have a lot of like vivaciousness and excitement. But Vatas are also moving a lot too. So we don't like really get a lot done per se. Like we start a lot of stuff. Follow through's a little tough. Is that true?
Ask me how many quilting projects I have.
Yes, exactly. Lots of quilting projects. None of them finished. I love it. So the Vata body is often thin and tall and long and lanky, or it's very short. Okay, so Vata can be tall and lengthy, or it's short and little, like Judith. Small features, long limbs, dry hair, dry skin, low stamina. Okay, so Judith probably can't go all day long like a Pitta can. She probably gets a couple hours midday where she can get stuff done, and then she's gonna go take a nap.
But great bursts.
Yeah, bursts.
Bursts.
Bursts of energy.
And then.
Okay, so they're creative and expressive and inspired and playful. And they're moving around a lot. And then, so Ayurveda looks a lot like Chinese medicine at your digestion, your elimination. Those are big keys to what's going on with your body. So for me, when I talk about elimination, I'll talk about me. For me, and for most Vatas, there's gas, bloating, and constipation. This is a true Vata quality. Now, you may have that and not be a Vata, and I'll talk about this in a minute. No, I'm going to talk about it now. So other types will get vata imbalance. Vata is the first thing to get imbalanced in the body. It's often people can be a pitta with vata imbalance and struggle with weight issues or nervous system issues. So this is not exclusive to just the pure vatas, okay? Because you may have some serious vata qualities but not be a vata. And that's actually my problem in life. I'm actually a pitta, but I've had so much trauma to my body, and I've been cut off from my body for so many years. I got some serious vata imbalance. So, and I'm going to show you this in a second when I'm done. So, the imbalanced emotions of a vata. So these are some of the positive qualities, like the creativity, the expressiveness. When vata is imbalanced emotionally, it shows up as worry, anxiety, fearfulness, worried looping. I was so vata imbalanced after my third kid, and I had a friend die of stage 4 breast cancer, and I literally thought I was gonna die. I'd like anything that came in my body, I'm like, I think I'm gonna die. My poor husband. He had to reassure me like every week that I didn't have a new ailment because I had such vata imbalance that I was like, I couldn't calm it. There was just so much going on. For spaciness, overwhelmed, forgetful, inconsistency, these are vata qualities. Making an appointment, not really showing up, oh, I forgot. Like, you have these people in your life, right? It's not that they're defective, pittas. It's just that their mind works differently, and when they go out of balance, they just get forgetful, and they just need to move. I have a friend whose husband is vata, and she's pitta kapha, so she's like she doesn't have a drop of vata in her, and she's got a vata husband, and she's like, I feel like I want to talk to him about this issue, and he's just moving around the kitchen, ignoring me. I'm like, oh, you just have to move with him. He's a vata, just move with him. He needs to move. Just move with him, and you can have a great talk. Go for a walk. And sure enough, like they were able to kind of like move together, and she was able to get her stuff with him by going with the flow of his element rather than taking the hot air balloon and tethering it down, you know, so that you can get what you want out of the conversation. So other symptoms of imbalance, and this is just stuff that I've seen a lot. There's lots of other ways, but insomnia is often, depending on the time of the night, and I'm going to go through that if anybody has insomnia, but insomnia or not being able to sleep is one of the vata imbalances. Dizziness, vertigo, getting up and getting dizzy, those are all vata symptoms. Pain that shoots and moves around the body is often a vata issue. So it's not like throbbing pain, but like it's like, oh, my hip. Okay, so most vatas will feel this in their hip. They'll get hip pain. Now, why is that? Vata's up here. So if you're a pure vata, you're lacking all of this energy downward, right? So I'm in my heart and I'm like, right? That's the vata energy. So the vatas, you know, don't have that downward flowing energy, especially a pure vata, and so the hips will go out, or the knees, or the first and second chakra will be imbalanced because of where the energy is and where the energy goes. For me, when my vata is up and the way it combines with my pitta, my back will go out. My bones, I got ribs popping out left and right. I was in a cold room, 68-degree room, practicing yoga, and boop, there goes a rib. So that's how my vata will present itself. It's usually fall, winter. I'm at the chiropractor every week, getting body work all the time, because I know I need to just keep working with my body and keep it in balance. And there's different things that you can do to also keep that. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to move back up. Thank you. Did this resonate? Does this sound like parts of you?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say one thing. As I get older, one of my real concerns is like turning into a nervous old lady. You know, like the idea of the nervous old lady who's like scared of everything, and I really worry about that.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I can see that I could see that happening in my future, and that really worries me.
Yes. Well, I can tell you why that does increase with time. So your first 19 years are your kapha years of life. And I'll repeat this once you know what kapha is. So you know how kids are like snotty and there's mucus coming down and stuff, right? Then from 20 to about 55, 60 are your pitta years. With the years you have fire, this is your career, you're having babies, you're, you know, doing 50 million things. This is when you have the fire in your life. And then at around 50, 55, 60, really around menopause time for women, maybe early, I don't know. Anyway, it hits early in my family, so I don't actually know when real men. Anyway, when you hit that stage, you hit the vata time of your life. So if you're a vata and you're hitting the vata stage of life, when you know you're at risk either way for Alzheimer's or tremors or other vata, because nervous system is connected to vata. When vata, so if you think about the lightness of vata, there's not a lot of heaviness to pull that energy back down. So it's completely valid to have that concern, but you don't need to go into the vata mind of worry about it, because there are things that you can do to really bring that heaviness into your body during that really delicate, more delicate stage of life. So
right, that's what I need to learn about.
Okay, I make sure we get to that.
Okay.
Hey, Judith.
Thank you, Judith. So one more thing about vatas, when I was at the ashram, so when vatas travel, like think about it, getting up in the airplane, being in the air, totally ungrounded, right? And then you go to a different place and you don't have your own bathroom and your own bed, totally throws you off. And then pretty much you don't poop until you go home. So, all the vatas at the ashram life is rigorous, and it's not very cushy, and like they're telling you where to be, and so you don't get to have your cup of tea and sit down. And all of the vatas were totally out of balance, and we had to talk about it. Our constipation, what are you doing? Have you pooped yet? Like, there was worry, and there were gut issues, and none of us were pooping, and it was like, it was really a big deal. It was really, and the other people were like, what's wrong with these people? And really, it's just our vata was out of balance. We were just vata imbalanced. It's not because we're bad or wrong and we're non-good yogis. It was because travel really throws off the vata. And there are things that you may need to do as a vata to really ground yourself and do, you know, really take care of yourself when you're traveling, so as to prevent that level of imbalance. And this is where the understanding, I used to beat myself up. I'm like, why can't I travel? I hate, do you know what kind of family vacations we go? We rent a house for 2 months and we stay there, and then that becomes home, and that bathroom becomes the bathroom. And I get to buy the food and cook it myself, because that's another thing for vata. We need to keep our digestion moving. We need to, yeah, right? So anyway, so that's vata. Do you feel like you have, does anybody know a vata at least? Crooked teeth, kind of nervous, moving. Okay. So now let's go to pitta. Carla? Carla has a pitta body. She's a strong pitta. Can you see yourself?
I can.
This is Carla. So again, pittas have a medium build and are usually strong. They're just strong. They don't have to build a lot of muscle. They have a lot of muscle. They're clover. Why didn't you? Like clover.
I found out when I calculated that's what it was.
You're full pitta, right?
Not full.
What do you have?
I float between the bottom.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So it's the strong build, the naturally strong build, not seriously like not necessarily lean, but really strong and muscular. And there's that heft. Not really heft, but like there's muscly meat on those bones. Athletic. Sometimes they're freckled. A lot of the redheads have a lot of pitta in them. So the pitta mind is sharp and strategic and intellectual and clear and good, like learns quickly, retains, and they're like on it, right?
Yeah, to a fault.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to get to that fault. To be continued to the fault. Okay, so when their digestion is imbalanced, they'll feel heartburn. They'll see more color in their urine and in their stool. So the color of the stuff that comes out of your body is based upon your pitta dosha. And they'll have diarrhea. So it's like almost hot stool in that sense. I know it's stool, but whatever. So do you see, like, the heartburn is like the heat and the acidity coming up. The diarrhea is the heat coming down. The emotions of the imbalanced pitta is anger, resentment, jealousy, critical, controlling, demanding.
I'm a peach. Should be married to.
And when the fire is up and they don't have enough adversity in their life, like a project they're working on or something that they're chewing their mind or researching. My husband's a pitta, and he always has to be researching something, right? Like researching the next vacation or researching how to get the best out of your body, or like they're super intellectual, so they're researching and their mind is going, and if they don't have that, or maybe they need to run because they have so much pitta, they have to burn it off. And so if they don't have that, they'll bite your head off and have you for lunch. If they don't have the Iron Man coming up, they're not practicing for something, they're not achieving something, it ain't pretty. Okay, so that's the pitta. And so where pittas will get out of balance is they'll be most susceptible to infection and inflammation. Think of that. Infection is like a fire. It's a fight in your body. Skin rashes, acne, anything with heat flaring up, hives. I get hives. So I have the vata and the pitta thrown together, and it's like the fire comes up and it like it creates like a little, the air comes down. Like I get little, I have one right here. If I get tired, I'll get hives. Okay. So I'm sorry, guys, but it's good for you to know this anyway. The menstrual, so everything, the seasons have a dosha associated with, the time of day, the body types have a dosha, and your menstrual cycle will have a dosha to it. And I'm sorry I have to address this, but I do have to address this. It's elimination, it's part of the body. So the kapha part of the menstrual cycle, like that happy, joyful time of your cycle is like right around ovulation, or that time around ovulation, right? And then once the kapha is over, then the fire comes up, right? So I'll get hives right after that time, of like the fire hit, like the progesterone, or what is that, progesterone time, doctors? Yeah. So the fire comes up. You'll see fire symptoms. That's the whole PMS thing. That's fire. My body's on fire, right? And so cooling during that PMS time. So you have to start looking at where these doshas are coming up, and I'm going to give you some ideas of how to work them. And then once the menstruation happens, you've got movement, so you've got the vata working, okay? And so if you're looking at where you are in your cycle, you can look at what kind of symptoms you're getting. Are you getting anger, or are you in worried mode? That's the vata piece, and maybe you're in the vata time. So just look at that. I know a lot of people, their menstruation or their digestion will go off balance, and that's something to look at with respect to these dosha qualities. Migraines. So you think right here, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, those are all pitta related. Acid reflux, pitta related. The liver and gallbladder are related to the energy of the eyes, so pitta affects the eyes and the eyesight. And there's some marma points. I'm not going to be able to get into this in much detail, but you know, there may be mid-back pain or just above the hip pain for the pittas with high pitta. Anything else you want to add to that you got going on?
No, actually, the hive thing like makes I can never figure out like what I was eating to have it come out, and it's usually like I'm fatigued or I've had too much caffeine, which is a hot drink.
Caffeine creates heat in the body, so that's going to create fire and upwardness. So hives will come like the energy will be like, and like I'll get them like here,
right there.
Or here or here.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
So you bring up a good point. So for me, I had so many autoimmune issues, and I didn't know where they were coming from. And Ayurveda is the only thing that put them together, because really I just had a lot of heat in my body. So I'd see it as hives, chronic hives. Well, that was autoimmune, and I had some gut issues or some thyroid issue. You know, I don't know. All these things that I had seemed unrelated, but when you looked at it through the lens of Ayurveda, it actually made a lot of sense. And I just want to add vata, pain, moving pain. Yeah, you got that right? Okay, so, sorry, that's my vata. Do you notice, like, the coming back and forth? I have notes to keep me on track. Anything else? Yeah.
Tailgating, again, apologies to the men, but tailgating on the menstrual cycle.
They need to understand it, too.
Yeah, so menopause.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure I'm in the middle of.
Okay.
I feel like I'm kapha, vata, pitta all within 5 minutes.
So a hot flash is a heat.
Then I'm crying, then I don't know what I'm thinking, and then I eat chocolate, and then So I'm reading all this, I'm like, okay, I'm everything.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. So, so if you think about it, if you've got water and earth and fire and air in the body, and your body is going through a huge transition, there's going to be that upheaval until it settles back down into its new place. So the fire is going to heat up, and then the cold will, you know, so it's like everything's rearranging. And you know, there was something else that I heard about with menopause, or maybe I thought this, so take this for what it's worth, but women will gain weight, right? They'll gain weight during menopause, but if you think about it, you don't really want to go into your vata years, the nervous system vata years, without that heavy, warming heat of fat on your body. So you want that kapha on your body once you hit 50, once you go through that, because, and I've learned this hands-on, because I was doing this detox to heal my gut, because vatas have imbalance around the gut, so I'd healed my body really through healing my gut personally on my own path. But when I was doing that, I was dropping weight. I just, like, weight was like throwing, you know, just coming off of me very quickly. And when that happened, my vata got completely out of balance. And I was like, it was like someone had to sit on me, because I just didn't have enough oil and fat. And so I mindfully put weight on to ground my body. And so there are herbal things, and I'm going to give some resources on where to look, that may help do internal balancing, balance all three of them and nourish the body. The other thing is a reproductive system, and I'm talking kind of out of turn because I haven't really officially learned this yet, but like there's different, they see there are different layers of tissue, and the reproductive system is the layer that gets nourished or hydrated last. Okay, so ghee is one of those, it's the only superfood in Ayurveda. But ghee is one of those really rich oils. It's clarified butter. And it will sink down. So that's one thing I would say is ghee, like slopping it on. And they had me drinking ghee at the ashram with some other herbs in it. And actually that's what got my system back into... So I would read up on that, and I would look at Banyan Botanicals, because they have women's health, you know, for menopause. what's important. You know, it's important for my husband to know, like, what my PMS was about. It wasn't that I was crazy. I just had extra heat. You know, it's just important to understand. Thank you, Carla. Do you have a question?
So my first lesson with Kim was about stomach pain. Like, it was the first yoga class I came, and I was going through something at the time that everything was like right here, and I didn't want to face it, but it was right here, and I didn't want to face it, and I'm just gonna stop drinking coffee, blah, 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 blah. And it was really just some relationship stuff that I had to like let bubble up, as she said, and we did the practice, and we wrung out the middle, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. It's my stomach, like, and as you said, like, I could do cancer, gallstones.
To push it right back down and create disease. And what she's talking about is both the asana practice, but also the spiritual practice, because Ayurveda sees you as a whole person. Mind, body, emotion, spirit. It's all related. So if you've got fire, pitta, in your third chakra, you have to breathe into it and let it out.
In my office.
Yeah.
The door closed. Yeah.
So that's the asana piece of really releasing the fire, and we can do that in asana. And we're going to get to the asana piece as well. But the other aspect, and I was going to bring my boards, but I'm like, no, Kim, you're going to teach this from a body perspective. Don't go into your spiritual stuff. But there is spiritual practices that you can do to help balance this out. And one of that is going into your breath and feeling what's there, totally and completely honoring it instead of judging yourself. And as a pitta, you're going to judge it, put a little casing around it, and shove it into your gallbladder. Right? So like release it up. I'm really angry, and what did he think he could do? And why did she do that? And like really like opening up the throat and just saying it to yourself, not with the person, because the pitches can light someone on fire. But figuring out how to release that fire in a healthy way is critical. It's just critical. It really is, and it's something that's totally not honored in our society. We're not taught how to do it. We're supposed to stuff it down, maybe with a glass of wine, a cookie, or some TV and Facebook. Really, that's what we do, and that's how we cope, and we haven't been taught how to cope and how to release and how to shift. And I think that's, the yogis knew it. The yogis totally got it. I mean, they're out in the mountains, like, meditating and levitating and all kind of tating. Okay, I'm trying. Kapha. Thank you. What's your name? Taryn, yes. Hi. This is Taryn. You feeling okay? You nervous? No, I'm good. You're good. Yeah. All right, so I want to just finish up Pitta for a second by saying that Pitta is highly valued in our society. The more you do, the longer hours you work, the more results-oriented you are, the more you get done, the more you go, get it. That is what's valued in our society. Creativity, self-expression, that, not so much. Maybe a little bit if you're in the marketing field or something. Maybe we'll take a little of that in the appropriate area. And what's not really valued in our society is the kapha element. And so let's talk about kapha and look at that piece, because we have all these ideas of kapha. Well, let me go through and I'll tell you what the stereotypes are and what the actual truth underneath that is. So the kapha is a large build. Do you see how big her shoulders are? She is a larger build. And you know what? She's supposed to be larger build. She's supposed to be larger build. This is how her energy was made. And they have padded joints. Like, not bony, like padded joints. Like there's padding around here, and it's supposed to be there because it's sustaining, and it's like knitted. It's like the joints are knitted. And that's the way her joints are supposed to be. They're larger joints, and there's girth to the joints, and that's how her body is made. And they have really high endurance. They don't, like, a pitta will be starving. A kapha can forget to eat, it can be 4 o'clock, and they're like, oh, I should eat. And you know what the other thing about a kapha? All they have to do is look at food and they'll gain weight.
Very true.
It doesn't matter what they're eating, their bodies will be large and padded. And that's the way their body is supposed to be. And right, our society totally doesn't value that. But I can tell you, once I learned this and then I went back to teaching, and I could cry about this, but so the vata and the pitta energy go upward, right? The kapha energy is in the first 2 chakras, and it goes down and it's heavy. And so when I was learning to teach off the mat, like, cause I'm a newer teacher, so I have to do the poses, right? But when I was learning to teach off the mat, I found the kapha in the room, or the pitta kapha in the room. I anchored my eyes on that person because, I get chills, she was the most beautiful person in that room. Her energy, her poses, and I'm not comparing or judging, whatever, but her body was like sinking down. And I could feel the groundedness of that kapha energy. And it was, there was that steadiness to it. Like the poses were like, whew, razor sharp, rather than the vatas who's like, right? Or the pitches is like, no, not the kapha. The kapha will go into a pose and just embody a pose, really the way a pose. A lot of people can go upward in a pose, but there's also this rooting down and grounding in a pose too, and the kapha body will ground in a pose. So if you have kapha in your constitution, I will tell you, even if you have a kapha, pitta, or either, I don't know, I want to know if there's any vata kaphas. I'd love to learn more about you. That's the only body type I don't see very often. No one else? Vata kapha. Okay, so the kapha is easygoing and kind and loyal, forgiving, to a point, consistent. They don't like change. So you have an operations person in your company, or like you need someone who just does this thing, the same thing over and over and gets it done and is reliable and is kind. That's your kapha. And this is like, I always have a kapha friend. When I look through my life, I always had a kapha friend in my life. Because I needed someone to ground me. I was so ungrounded. Like, I needed that. I needed that heaviness. Heaviness is good. Vata and pittas, we don't value that because we want to keep moving and blah, blah, blah. No, this kapha energy is so good and so strong. And you know, the kaphas don't really get sick. They just get congestion. They'll get the mucus, right? From their stomach, there's mucus in your belly, and all the way up, they'll get congestion, but they're not going to come down with the infections or the gut issues, they're strong because they can sustain themselves. They're like, there's a sustainability. The immune system is a kapha element. It's steady and it's strong. Is this correct?
That is very correct,
yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So the imbalanced digestion is heaviness after eating, and there may be some undigested stool. So the kapha digestion is slow.
Very slow.
Low digestion, low metabolism, slow. May miss a few things on the way out. It's okay. So the imbalanced kapha emotion is depression, lethargy, sadness, resistance to change, and then there's this greediness. Well, the greediness is the attaching to the thing and not wanting to let it go, because they don't like change. They don't want things to move, so like it has to stay, and it has to stay here, and it has, right? And so there's this holding on piece to the kapha,
very much,
right? Mm-hmm. So when the body is out of balance, it's really not out of balance too much. There's extra mucus, there's congestion. Bring and there's things you can do about that in Ayurveda. I just want to mention it because I don't have it written down here, but Nasya oil is, you can just oil the inside of your sinuses, not neti pot, because that can be really annoying, but you can just put some of this balancing oil in your nasal passages, especially if you know what bad time of year, or it's a bad time of year for you, and you can just continuously, regularly, everyone really, any congestion or sinus issues, prone to sinus infection. Every fall you get a sinus infection. Nasya oil, it's like $10. And I have to say, the brand that I have, I don't even charge profit on top. I just buy it and then, like, is the most nurturing one. The one at Banyan is not. It doesn't feel as good as a really good one. So you don't have to live with sinus congestion. It's like quick. I have people at my Skidmore class, and I'll just give out the bottles of this to the students. Of like, I can breathe now, and I'm like, yeah, it's crazy, right? There's things that you can do to balance yourself. That doesn't have to do with antibiotics. Okay. Swelling and fluid retention, right? Mm-hmm. Because kapha is the wet water element, and so they're going to hold on to water and fluid. Mm-hmm. So salt, not great, because that will help hold on to the fluid. Anything else that you want to add?
No, well, it makes sense to me. Like I'm a registered nurse, and I know where I fit and where I don't fit, and the ER didn't work for me.
No.
And now it makes sense why.
You're out with the babies or something, right?
I know. No, well, now I'm actually doing occupational health. So at State Farm Insurance. So this is more.
That's funny. That has to do with the bones more, or like stabilizing people's bodies?
No. Occupational health is like just wellness. It's all wellness programs.
Oh, wellness. Right.
So it's more.
Sustaining health.
Yeah, exactly.
Sustain.
You're
going to sustain.
That's right.
So that's your role. Is to
that's
sustain.
my role.
And where you need to rebalance yourself is by adding more fire and movement.
Mm-hmm. Which is what I'm doing. And since taking yoga, I started about a month ago with you, and I've noticed that I'm able to move. I'm more flexible now, and I'm really feeling really good. But are you saying that these padded joints are never going to go away? Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, see, they're not offended because they're kind and they're loving.
And I'm forgiving, so.
Forgiving. I screwed up. She forgave me already. I had a joke. I'm like, I'm going to have a room full of pittas because the pittas are the ones that want to learn. The kaphas are like, oh, I'm fine.
I want to be. I want to change. I don't want to be a kapha anymore now.
No, right. Well, that's why I feel it's really important for all of us who are not kapha and for the people who are kapha to develop some compassion for yourself and for your bodies. Mm-hmm. See the really beautiful parts of what you have and stop punishing yourself for your nature. And I could cry because,
me too.
Like, all the loving, sweet, loyal kaphas of the world who have had this expectation that they should be a pitta, but they're not. Come on, you guys. We love you. You're the one that are loving us when we're punishing ourselves. We need you. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it. There have been many occasions where I'm like, what the hell are they doing over in that corner when I'm teaching something but somebody's jumping up and doing, hey,
right.
Come back to my.
That's what it is. There's a vata in the room. Now I will tell you what I think. I think a lot of the vatas are at the yoga studios because they're off balance in some way. They've thrown their bodies out of balance so badly that now they have to be in the yoga studio because they'll hurt themselves if they come to the Y and do this. And I think what we have here are pittas or pitta kaphas. I think. I don't know that. But, like, because the vatas need, like, something calm, not loud music, calm me, allow me to calm, doing my yoga, like, you know? So, anyway. Okay. So we have about 20 more minutes to go through this. Yes. Yeah.
I was just interested in, you said picture somebody in these bowls, and you went through that vata, and I was like, wow, that's my husband. And all these things you said, and then you went to that kapha, and I was like, wow, that's my husband.
Yeah.
It's like, it's amazing, the two, and of course the pitta.
Okay. Oh, you're in the middle, balancing your husband. I mean, this
He's
is
at both ends.
right.
Everything you said about both of those was like, oh, that's him.
He may be a vata kapha. I don't see many vata kaphas. Maybe kaphas can get vata imbalance too. So some people have a vata mind and they're just like, but have a different body. And so know that about yourself. If you've got a certain, look at your chart and see where it comes up. Because if you have a Vata mind or a Kapha mind, let's say you go toward depression, but you're a Pitta, you may have burnt out your fire, and now you just crashed or whatever. You know, I don't know. I'm just making that up, but this is a good constitution survey. I've used a bunch of them, and this one's very specific. So where you came out with a larger number is probably where you are. Now I have to talk about something, and that is Vikruti versus Prakriti. What? I don't know much about whatever. Okay. So the Vikruti is the balance that you were born with. Okay? So I'm going to use myself. And I'm going to get a little weird for a moment. You can ignore this if you're not into this kind of stuff. But the Vedas came down with yoga and Ayurveda, and meditation really is the whole point of most of the yogic path. And they came down with Vedic astrology, came down with it. Okay, so just say la 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 if this is too out there. But when you have your Vedic astrology chart done, based on where the planets are when you were born, will help determine what your doshic balance is, or what your doshas are. So you come to this world, you take this body to play out your karma. And you get this body and all these energetics and all these samskaras from the yogic tradition or past life imprints. You may or may not buy into that. Just close your ears if you don't buy into that. But all of these things are set within your Vedic astrology chart, in your astrology chart, based on all the planets, based on the fire energy, based on Mercury's Vata energy, based on Mars and the sun's fire energy. I don't know what's connected to Kapha because I don't have it in my chart. But so when I went and got my chart done, they're like, no, you're not a Vata Pitta, you're a Pitta. So let's say, so this just is Vikruti. So let's say this is my Vata, this is my Pitta when I was born, and this is my Kapha. Based on my lifestyle, and what's happened to me in my life and all my childhood trauma and all my karma and all of that and how that's played and mixed it into a pot and make a big mush out of it, the way my Prakriti has shifted is that I look more like this. This is the Vata imbalance thing too. So I'm like a big fireball. I'm an Aries with an Aries rising, and I'm a bull, and I'm going to bite your head off. But somewhere along the way, I got really Vata, really super imbalanced. And not that Vata's all bad, but my Vata's a lot of imbalance. But we don't have to judge it and make it bad because we can work with it. So I'm pretty results oriented. I have a master's degree in public administration, and I was a strategic planner for the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, for 10 years, and had a whole career and was all business oriented, and it stressed me out because it wasn't who I was at all. So I had a lot of creative Vata energy, and I also like to move and do new things. But I was a management consultant, so I could at least change projects, right? I didn't have to stay with the Kapha one thing every day. That would have killed me. And so I used to think that my desire to change and move and keep doing new things was a dysfunctional part of my personality. But really what I found is that this Vata-Pitta combination means I get results done, and I like to do things, but I have to be in short-term projects, and it has to be new and creative, or I'm like out of there. So what am I doing now? I'm like doing yoga, and then I've got this retreat coming up, and then I'm gonna do an Ayurveda thing, and then let's focus on meditation. And so I've got all these tools now, and I've got enough Pitta to be able to like follow through, and I've got the business skills, and so I can do that piece. But I also have all of this like Vata that I'm working with instead of going against all the time, because I'm making myself think, well, I should be able to hold down a job and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I need like the change. And so let me figure out how to pull change into my daily life and really work with that energy. And that's the compassionate piece of Ayurveda. Like, learn yourself. Okay, my pros are this, but my cons are this. You don't have to just see the cons. You can see what energies you can work with. Maybe being a nurse is the best part of the, you know, a kapha should be, you know, a nurse, because they're sustaining and they're loving and they're caring, and that's what they want to do. But if I went into that, I'd be like, well, it's all about you. What's about me? Come on. Right? So that wouldn't serve me. I might think in college, oh, I should go be a nurse because, you know, I should do something good for the world. But no. This is the good that I can do for the world, because I needed it to work with who I am. Okay. So now, are there any questions based on that?
I was going to ask about my husband, because he's primarily kapha, but he tends to get a lot of heartburn and sometimes diarrhea. So
he's in a high pitta job. He's a physician. So we've got a kapha, which is good because he's like a primary care physician coming in, kind of same ailments for people, maybe, I don't know. But he's in a very high pressure, maybe long hour, I don't know. Maybe it may be that there's a lot of pitta or fire, or when I don't want to talk about him specifically, but when we suppress our emotions, it'll turn, it could be anger. Like, we live in a society where you're not supposed to express anger. So everybody has anger. Do kaphas get angry? Yes. So even the kaphas get angry. But we live in a society where we're not allowed to feel anger or express anger, or it's just not okay. So, you know, whatever fire is happening normally, even if you're not a pitta, whatever fire is happening normally in the third chakra, if it's not being burned off, or if there's not a lot of, let's say, cardiovascular going on to really help move things, fire could just get set here and stay there. Or there's, you know, the gluten, you know, there's the other pieces that can be creating the imbalance. And nutrition is a big part of Ayurveda. I'm not going into that because you start talking to people about food and like they go into wah-wah. So really food is like, my training didn't even, I mean, I know a lot about the food aspects, and I tried training people on the food aspects, and they would just break down in tears like, oh, I love that food, I cannot, you know, we just get attached to our food. So it's best, I think, to calm the fire. Like, I imagine maybe during the summer the fire will get higher, the heartburn will get higher because of the more heat in the body. I don't know if that answers your question, but I would look at where in the life there's a lot of fire, and whether it needs to be released in nutrition or in emotion or in the crazy lifestyle or the long hours or whatever. Yeah, everything's fine in the kapha world. Okay, ready? Here's the details now. I don't really have enough time to go through all of this, but, and you know, I'm looking at this and I gave the wrong version. I have like I have a much better version of this that I need to get out. So for the yoga piece. But let's look at the time of day. So the Vata time of day, and my husband looked at this and he's like, does this mean it's good for Vatas during this time of day? No. This is just, there's certain times of day that are very Vata times a day, Pitta times a day, and Kapha times a day. So it's kind of like riding the wave, right? And knowing your type and what is happening to you during those hours. So if you get a lot of heartburn, if you're a Pitta and you get a lot of heartburn at noon during Pitta hours, then you need to be focusing on some cooling things during that time. Going to take a hot vinyasa class, not a good idea. If you're a Pitta that runs hot and gets issues between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Does that make sense? So now let's start applying this. So the Vata time of day is 2 to 6 p.m. Who doesn't crash during that time of day? Okay, so I have a lot of Vata. Do you know what I do? At 3 p.m., my kids get off the bus. They have black bean fudge. At 3:15, they're in their rooms for an hour and a half so I can nap every single day because I need that rhythm because of the Vata in my body. And I get at least a 20-minute nap. I don't do any chores. I don't do anything. I rest my body, create groundedness, calmness, oil my body. I'll talk about that. I take deep care of myself. So that light at the end of my tunnel is 3:15 p.m. I just have to make it to there. Because my husband travels. I'm up till like 10 o'clock with my high risk one. Like, I need to rest. I don't need to justify it to anyone anymore. Like, I need my rest. And it's Vata time, and my Vata goes, otherwise, what happens? Mommy monster, they call it. Yell at them. It's really for their own protective good that they're in their room at that time, so I don't chew them up and spit them out. Seriously. They know that. They know. And, you know, we've talked about... All right, anyway. 2 to 6 a.m. is Vata hour. So if you find yourself waking up like around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you can't get back to sleep, that's Vata. That's the Vata time of day, and that's Vata waking up, so you want to calm your Vata. Okay? Pitta, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So listen, Vata and Kaphas, your biggest meal is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Why? Because that's the fire time of day, and that's when your body can digest the best. Okay? 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Big meal. This is what they do in France. Like they do this in Europe. They have their big meal in the middle of the day. Why? Because that's when their digestion is strongest. So if you have weak digestion, do you ever have dinner at 6 p.m. and it's like sitting in your belly?
And that's the heaviness for the kapha.
Right, that's heavy time of day. 6 p.m., not much is moving there, folks. Just sustaining ourselves.
We were just talking about this.
Yeah.
A little while ago.
Yeah. So you want to have your biggest meal here, but we're in a society where we need meat and potatoes at 6 p.m. every night, right? So this affects our metabolism, it affects our gut, and really what happens is you get ama. It's like the waste product of your undigestion, bad digestion. I'm sorry, it's getting to be 2. And I have a Vata mind, so the other thing I do is I never do anything I don't do anything after 2 p.m. I don't even leave my house. My kids don't do sports. Because I can't handle it. I wouldn't be a nice mother if they did. And so I've arranged my life around that because I know, like, my brain doesn't work, my emotions are off, and that's how I have to do it. That's not how everyone should do it, but that's how I've developed compassion for myself and self-care, is by just looking at what I need. So 6 to 10 p.m. is Kapha hour. That's kind of a nice hour. Even if you were crashing from 3 to 6 p.m. or 2 to 5 or whatever that time period was, you kind of perk up around 6 or 7, don't you? You thought you were going to go to bed at 7, and then all of a sudden you feel good. Now, people who have sleep issues, look at your body type and look at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Pittas who don't get to sleep by like 10:30 or so may often find themselves up till 2 or so because they missed that window to get to sleep. Right? Anyone? Just nod. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So getting to sleep on the early side is going to give you the quality Pitta hour sleep that you need, especially those Pittas who have a hard time. If you're waking up at 2 a.m., 1 a.m., or 2 a.m., that might be a Pitta amount. You're like, I'm waking up all night. Well, you have young kids.
3, 4.
You have young kids.
That's the quiet time. Everyone's asleep. I have creative thoughts.
Okay,
racing.
so your Vata is going 2 to 6 a.m. You wake up, and it's like it's party time in your head. So go with it.
Yes.
And take a nap during Vata afternoon. So this is the piece. I mean, do you wake up and actually get creative during that time?
I do. It's
right.
Yeah.
So, but you probably need a nap during Vata hour. Your body has to stay still, or then you're taxing your adrenals, and it's just not, you know, like burning the candle at both ends. It's just, it's not cool anymore.
No, that's
Okay. The season. So fall and early winter is essentially when my back goes out the most. I don't go to the chiropractor during the summer. I'm like there every week during this time of year, no matter how many kidney warmers and heating pads and oils and whatever.
So when you say time of year, that means the most stress time of year, not the best time of year.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. So Pittas, this summertime, like you're heating up, your anger's high, you're fired up, skin rashes, sunburns, craziness, right, Pittas? So summer is the time of year that you need to be cooling your act down. So if you remember, if you remember, my first year teaching Warren yoga during the summer, I hit July and I got like a sinus infection and was like down for the count because I wasn't used to being 90 degrees outside and then coming in and it being 90 degrees in here, and I was like lots of pitta energy coming out and I was dying. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do this warm yoga thing. And I was like, hey Molly, you gotta change the degrees to like 80 because I need to turn it down. There's 35 people in the room. Because as a pitta, I get overheated. So us pittas, 80, 85 is okay. Once it gets higher, forget it, not okay. And as a vata, I need the warmth. And so this is where the seasonal aspects come in with the dual doshas. Okay? So let's say I'm a vata pitta. I get cold during the winter and I overheat during the summer. Fun, fun, fun. But I'm scared. I've always been scared. This is why I went to the ashram to learn about this. Because I've always been scared to cool my body because I know I have these gut issues and I don't want to stop up my gut because I'd rather, So I had to really start to learn the nuances, and I can't teach this in a 2-hour workshop, but you have to learn the nuances of what time of year is it, what's going on outside the building. I know we're in temperature-controlled buildings most of the time, but the outside does still affect us. And so we need to be thinking about what time of year is it, what elements are up, cold, rain, hot, whatever, and then how do I balance that out? So the pittas who are running outside in 90-degree heat and then coming to hot yoga, you might want to look at that. Because the tendency is to throw ourselves out of balance. If we're out of touch with our bodies, we're not checking in. Remember the practice today that we did in yoga? So we did a nice, slow practice where we were checking in with our bodies for too long, right? And so it's that connectedness that will give us the ability to check in and know what's out. But a lot of us are just so disconnected, so chronically disconnected from our bodies that we don't know what we need and we don't know what's out and we don't know how to balance it. And that's okay. It just takes listening. And when you listen and you ask, your intuition will take you. Because when it's hot outside, you may grab a glass of cool water to cool your body, right? We're wired for this. We're wired to balance ourselves out. If our body is dry, we'll put some cream on it, right? We do know this intuitively, but we've just gotten too busy to actually breathe and connect with ourselves to listen. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So body oiling is one of the important aspects, Abhyaganda or something like that, I forget what it's called. But so there's different oils to balance the different doshas, but if you're a dual dosha, meaning you're a vata pitta, I'm going to be cooling during the summer. I'm going to be doing pitta management during the summer and vata management during the winter, right? Because the winter's cold, and so I need to manage my vata during the winter, and I need to manage my pitta in the summer. So this is where the dual doshas come in. So sesame oil is warming and calming to the nervous system. Really important. So this is how you oil your body. You basically, 20 minutes before your shower, you glop on some organic oil all over your body for 20 minutes. Well, the vatas are going to be like, well, I'll get cold in my bathroom for 20 minutes. Right? And then how do you even manage that with towels? You have to have, it's like a whole process. And in fact, if you go on banyanbotanicals.com, they have a section on how to do this because it's logistically kind of weird. But sesame oil will warm you. It'll actually, as soon as you put it on your body, it's like putting a blanket on your body. So put it over your kidneys, put it over anywhere that you need. Let it soak in. I know 20 minutes is a little, maybe you do this a couple times a week, like when you're doing self-care evening, instead of watching TV or something. Hint, hint. You can get together and have a self-care party. So sesame oil will warm. Kafa's not kafa's because it's heavy. Sesame oil is warming and it's heavy, so it's good for vata, but not for the kaphas because they have the heaviness. They need a light oil, a light warming oil. So for kaphas, And I'm sorry, I don't have that kapha element, so I haven't tried these. And you'd have to try them and say, oh, this feels good and tingly, or this one feels ugh. And you actually have to be in touch with your body to start playing with this stuff. So that's our practice of yoga and meditation, right? So sunflower, corn, or mustard oil. Make sure it's organic corn if you can find organic corn oil. I'm not sure if that's available. Mustard oil is heating, warm. Sunflower oil is a bit lighter. Vatas can also do almond oil. It's not as warming, but it's thick and heavy and not as smelly. And pittas will go toward coconut oil. But if you have vata in you, don't be putting that coconut oil on during the winter, because I will tell you, I put coconut oil in my hair because I'm dry. I put it in my hair because it's really good for your hair. And if it hangs near my shoulders will get stiff. It actually is cold. Coconut oil is cold because they have it in the tropics. Coconut trees grow in warm climates, and so they're cooling. Okay? Everyone should slow, calm eating your large meals during the pitta hours, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Not a lot of drinks during the meal because that dilutes the stomach acids, which actually do the digestion. You want to have them you want to drink your water between meals. You want to avoid ice. Even pittas, who, like my husband, has a glass of ice water every morning. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to do that. Ice is too much. It's just too cold. Ice cream, ice products, not ideal from an Ayurvedic perspective. High prana meals. Okay, so they don't believe in leftovers. That's how I survive. Because you lose prana. You put the cooked food, the food loses prana when you cook it. Prana is life force energy. So your food you cook it, take some prana out, throw it in a container, a couple days, lots of prana gone, lots of bacteria built. It's not ideal from the Ayurvedic perspective. Okay, so food emphasis. This is nice and high level, and no, we can't go into it, but I'm going to give you some tips. Vatas will want to eat warm, so an ice-cold salad with raw, hard-to-digest vegetables may just need to be steamed slightly. Warm, oily, and heavy. Okay, so look up here. You just want to balance out the nature of vata with the food. So warm, oily, and heavy. So you want to avoid cold, light, and dry. So an ice drink with some dry crackers, not ideal for the pitta. It's going to take from the moisture and the oil in the body. Okay? Pittas will want to focus on, and I'm just going to jump here. So vatas can use a lot of spices. Some black pepper, some ginger. Garlic's not recommended, but I will use some garlic if I want to add some heat into my body. So you want to think warming, a dash of cayenne to your tea. So you want to heat for the vatas. And so the vatas can tolerate a lot of spices. They can tolerate Himalayan salt. That's good. You want to retain fluid. You want to pull the fluid in, retain fluid. Pittas want to cool their body. You want them to have some dryness because they're oily. They have oily skin, the pittas. So you want to pull in some dryness, some toast, or some drier foods for the pittas. And you want heaviness. Ghee. Now I have to tell you, there's one brand of ghee. It's got like a little cow, and it's really not. It tastes like cheese. I don't know if it's a local thing. So I use the Trader Joe's ghee, and it's really delicious, and I can pass it off on my kids, whereas the other ghee I can't. So you might want to, ghee's expensive. You can clarify the butter, find a thing on YouTube, but especially if you're a vata or a pitta, maybe start replacing some of your butter with ghee, because it's like a nourishing superfood. We don't need to be afraid of fat. The Ayurvedic perspective is not afraid of fat. In fact, I had to add a lot of oil into my body to be able to put a nice layer of fat on my body so that my nervous system wasn't going crazy. So we don't need to think fat's bad. Fat's good. Fat's grounding. Fat's okay. So is belly. Okay. What I didn't get to, and I would love to share this because I talk about this all the time, is those marma points, those acupuncture points type things on your body. my body goes out, and when I learned about marma therapy, and my husband's super intuitive, so I was able to give him a chart and show him the vata areas of the body. So some of the vata areas of the body, there's points here and here, like, right? Who doesn't hurt there? I'm sorry, here, here, and here. That if you rub them for 5 minutes, you can start releasing some of the energy that gets built up there. And there's some pitta points here, here, and here. And you'll find them because they'll be tender. So if things are out, just have someone just roam around your body around those points and have them stay there for 5 minutes on both sides. Because the energy will just go to the other side. Done that one. Does that make sense? So if I love marma therapy. I think it's brilliant. Okay, so there's different tastes that balance out. So these tastes balance you. These are the tastes, and I can't go over what the nuances of each of these tastes are, but here are the tastes to go toward and to go against. I know coffee, you want the sweet, sour, and salty, but you want to be more toward the pungent, bitter, and astringent. Digestive spices, here are some spices that you may want to, those who don't like cumin, the pittas who don't like cumin, or the vatas, if you buy cumin in a seed, it tastes a little bit more like a rye seed, and it's really delicious. You can put it into rice or other grains. Just take a couple tablespoons of cumin seed and throw it in, and then you're balancing out that meal. So the Ayurvedic perspective of cooking, and if you think about Thai cooking, they've got spiciness with coconut milk. Do you see that? It's internally balanced. You've got spicy, which is warm, and coconut, which is cooling, and maybe palm sugar or something. I don't know. I know that's not good anymore, but so because of the rainforests, right? So that's the way to start thinking about food, and you know, that's a whole other workshop. And I think it's best that people just start balancing out their tendencies, their life, their work, their relationships and stuff, and then start dealing with the food. Because once everything else is in line and you've come into a bit more of alignment, then you're actually just guided to the thing that's going to balance you. You don't have to think about it too much. Yeah.
I'm mostly pitta, and I started cooking with coconut oil and found that it calmed down a lot of the,
Yep.
You know,
It's cooling. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
So these are the different, and I'm just going to put a few tips together and post it. So I'll do that, because there are, like, obviously if you're putting sesame oil on your body, you should probably cook with it too for some warming, or you can eat the coconut oil, or a kapha might want to stay away. You know, kaphas and vatas need to stay away from that whole coconut oil trend. Okay. So there's some herbs. You can go onto banyanbotanicals.com. I'm not a big herb person, but you'll see that Shavarati is going to be in the menopause blend. You know, there's different blends of herbs, and this is really their medicine. It's food-based nutrition. So I talked about vatas and pittas energy flows up, and the kapha energy flows down. And I have a really good list, and I'm sorry that it's not on the handout you have, but I will get that onto. So you can do two things. You can go onto my website in 2 weeks or so when I get all this stuff live, or you can give me your email address on this piece of paper, and I will add you and let you know when I've posted this stuff. But this video will go up, and the correct version of this will go up, so you can have more specific. I wrote down all of the poses that were balancing for all doshas, and then I made a list of all of the vata balancing poses, so I wrote it out for each of the body types. And so we have about 15 minutes, so I think what I'm going to do is have people try on up here in the front. We're not going to do yoga. I can't get you warm, and everyone's, I think it would be too much. Is that okay? Does anyone really, I think I set expectations well that this isn't going to be like a yoga class, right? Okay, so we're going to try on some poses, and if I can remember them, because they're not, I'm not vata. I know, it's okay. So we're going to try on some poses, but let me just finish. Pranayama is going to be the quickest way in the moment to balance a dosha that's up. So someone came at you with some anger and you're feeling anger and you feel that fire in that pitta coming up and you're a pitta and you know it's happening. It's noon and you know it's happening, right? So everybody can sit up straight and we're going to do some pranayama and just try on pranayama. We're going to start with the pitta. So you remember that when your mouth is open, you release heat from the body. So that's why when we're warming up, you want to keep your mouth shut so that you can keep the heat in the body. When you're cooling down is when we start to have you open the mouth to cool the body. So just close your eyes and just come back into yourself, if you will. We're going to start with pitta. We're all going to try these on. It won't throw us too out of balance, but it's important to at least feel what it feels like in the body. Now open your mouth and curl your tongue. And breathe in through that curled tongue all the way down to this upper belly. And breathe out. And in. And out. Keep going. Now close your mouth and close your eyes. Just notice if you feel the cooling effect of that pranayama. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Pittas, did you feel it cool your body internally? Did you feel an internal cooling? So when your anger is coming up and it's noon and you're starving and you want to bite someone's head off, curl your tongue, breathe in. You want to breathe into this third chakra, to this fire. This is where the fire resides in the body, right here. I also have to list good books because there's a lot of good books. I can show them to you and then I can post them on the site as well. Vata pranayama. So what do Vatas need to do? They need to slow down, they need to ground, and they need to steady themselves, right? So Vata is just slow, deep breath with a tension on the lower body, okay? So just close your eyes. Pittas are still writing. Close your eyes with a straight spine. See, it's funny. Life is funny. People's personalities are funny. This doesn't have to be like a stressful life. So now, if you can feel your sits bones, the bones, your butt bones, just rock a little. Hopefully, if you're on a block, you can probably feel them pretty well. That's why we put a block underneath us when we're trying to get a straight spine too. It anchors us. So just notice just wiggle. And notice the sits bones. Put your palms, hands down on your thighs. Close your mouth, because we want to keep the heat in this time, right? Because Vatas are cold. And we'll do a counted breath. Actually, no. You don't want to regulate or put rigidity on the Vatas. So it's just a normal, deep, slow breath. And you bring the breath all the way down into the sits bones and the legs. So exhale. And then on your own time, inhale. Taking the breath down into the legs, the hips. And then just valve the breath, maybe even ujjayi breath, but nothing too restrictive. Just a nice, slow, deep, relaxing exhale. And continue inhaling slowly, deeply down to the hips and the legs. Mouth is closed, and exhale will allow you to sink out. And when you're ready, just release that exhale. And open the eyes. Feel grounded, relaxed, calmed. No? No, you don't. Because you're a pitta, right? And you needed to cool. Because we were keeping the heat in the body. Okay? Do you get that? Anyone else not like that very much? Did the vatas like it? Did it feel good? Okay, yeah, vata, yeah. It felt good, right?
Pitta one felt horrible.
Yeah, because it was cooling you. I want to cool. Okay, ready to do the kapha one? Kalabati. So, I see we're doing this nice calm breath, and I've got a pitta in the room doing Kalabati. Like stoking his fire. I'm like, no! I didn't say no, but in my body was like, no, don't stoke your fire. You're all fired up. Okay, so let's do this. And so pittas, you may not, just pittas, watch this, okay? So Kalabati is when you breathe in. This is a little bit more of an advanced pranayama, so if you can't do it, don't worry about it. What you have to be sure is you're going to use this right here to exhale, but then you have to release it fully so you get a good inhale. Otherwise, you're going to get dizzy, okay? So it goes like this. You have to breathe in. You can do it faster if you can. Keep going. And the vatas and the pittas stop. Let the kaphas keep going. Now do your cooling breath or your relaxing breath, vatas and pittas. Rebalance yourself energetically. Kaphas, how did that feel? Stimulating and inspiring? Did it feel good? Yeah. So that's how a kapha will get themselves moving in the morning, because there's this slowness. So that's a good way to fire you up and move you out. But if you're a pitta, or vata, you're just irritating yourself. So if someone's doing that in yoga class, don't do it with them. We love you. We respect your practice. You know what's best for your body. Don't do it. If one of us is doing something that's irritating you, stop doing it, because you know that that's not what your body needs. So important. Okay, so now we have 10 minutes for asana. Who's warm? Okay, so again, I'm sorry I don't have the list. Let's just look at what this says. It says that the vatas are going to want to ground and strengthen and stabilize. So here's what the vatas are going to be doing. They're going to spend as much, no worries, they're going to spend as much time on the ground as possible, because they want to get grounded, or their feet on the ground, they want to get grounded. They also need to build strength, like strength. We don't have the pitta, the vatas don't have the pitta strength. But that fast-moving vinyasa is going to destabilize a vata. And that's what most Western yoga is now. That's why they're probably in yin, in the yin classes, so that they can stabilize themselves. So vatas will want to hold poses long. The practice we did today, who's in my yoga class today, who has vata that was in class today? Okay, how did that feel?
I love it.
Heaven. Because you have pitta too, right? Okay, so a vata, this is basic. What I did today is not typical, because I'm responding to the pitta kaphas that are usually in the room, and I teach to the pitta kaphas. But those who are vata pitta, having something with strength and builds strength and burns some of that fire, but also stabilizes and grounds. So we were on the ground a lot too. We were doing a lot of plank, which can irritate. Plank can irritate a pitta because it builds fire, right? Anything here, any abdominal work is going to irritate the pittas because they already have a lot of fire. But you know what? They're going to want to do it because they want to get strong. They want to do the whole class. Okay? So pittas, chair pose, wheel, anything that's opening this, chair pose, wheel pose, any of the warrior poses, pittas, those are strong poses. And you don't need strength. You need cooling and grounding. So those poses and a number of other poses, but let me just say chair opens, wheel opens. It's not recommended that pittas go into handstand or head or forearm stand, because those will create a lot of fire. I mean, think of forearm stand. That's just opening you up. Sorry if you don't have a basis in yoga and I'm just naming off poses, but that'll come. So what's interesting is that the pittas will either go for the wheel because they want to achieve, or they'll back off and be like, no, I don't like that pose. Okay? So look at your tendency toward the poses that throw you out of balance versus put you in balance. So it's not that that pittas shouldn't do wheel or chair, it's just you shouldn't hold it very long. Because that's where you start building heat, is when you sit in chair for that long, it's like, oh, I'm warming up. Or plank. Plank is another heat-inducing pose. So you're going to want to. Now, here's the problem, is the pittas are the ones that want to like keep muscling out. So how do you, as a yoga teacher, balance the pittas in a room that are going to bite your head off if you do anything that doesn't burn off their fire, right? So the way, in my opinion, to do that is I gave the pittas the option to stay in plank, even though it was going to fire them up, but it'll burn off some of the emotional fire so that they can build their strength that they want, but still stay slow and stay connected to breath and stay grounded, because we were in plank. So instead of doing a vinyasa, to have them vinyasa, I had them stay in plank to stay grounded and stay 5 breaths, but it still gave them enough fire to feel like they were doing something and they weren't wasting their time. Okay? Does that make sense? So when you're taking yoga class and you're a pitta, remember that you want to ground, create flexibility, because pittas are rigid. Right? So you want to create flexibility. So like, you know, sitting on the floor for vatas and pittas, you know, any of the floor poses are going to be really grounding. Pittas are going to want to open their hips. Vatas are going to want to keep their hips closed because they're imbalanced in those lower chakras and they can get hurt. Vatas are going to be the most, vatas will hurt themselves just, you know, like moving in a weird way in Warrior One, like your hips, like trying to pull your hips too much in Warrior One, like click, there goes a joint. Whereas a pitta might hurt themselves and throw their shoulder out because they're muscling into their handstand 50 times without warming up after their weight workout. Right? It's true. Okay, so this is the piece. So pittas need to cool, soften, and create flexibility. But as a yoga teacher, we have to figure out how to challenge the pittas without throwing them out of balance. It's tricky, especially here at the Y where people want to get a good workout. So if you're one of those people, think about that and think about how to balance yourself in yoga class while still giving yourself the challenge. Maybe the challenge is to stay out of the head and just breathe, you know, or to cool, or to open the mouth and do some open mouth breathing. The vatas need to ground and strengthen and stabilize. So our joints are going to always be wacky, the vata joints. And so being able to hold poses, if you think about that, is just going to stabilize and strengthen all of those muscles between the joints. Also, we can sink into the ground, build strength, and it's really powerful to hold poses for a vata. And so nice, strong holding poses are where the vatas are going to want to go. So a headstand or a handstand is going to be a nice pose for a vata because they get to strengthen and they're still moving. So you want them to be able to still move. I'm going to stay less specific, and I will get the actual lists out because I don't have them memorized. Because vatas learn quickly and forget quickly. But I have it here. Balancing poses are good for a vata. Hip closing to avoid hip injury. You want to get the vatas and the pittas on the floor. Floor poses, long shavasana, grounding, calming. I do like a 10-minute shavasana now. because pretty much everyone in class needs that grounding. The kaphas, however, are grounded and they don't need that floor energy. They don't need the earth energy. And so there's not really much you can do. I mean, I'm not serving the kaphas to hold them in Shavasana, but I'm giving them the option to sit up and go into meditation halfway through. And I think that as a kapha, that's what you're going to want to do. If you're in Shavasana, you're holding Shavasana for a long time, I don't think a yoga teacher is going to have a hard time with you getting up and like going into a meditation, staying upright and staying off that ground, that grounding floor. So kaphas want to strengthen, stimulate, move, and heat. This warm yoga room's made for the kaphas in the world. They're the ones that can handle and sustain this high, warm, vinyasa, exercise-based yoga. Their bodies need that, and it's stimulating, and it's moving, and it's warming, and it'll get that energy pulled up into those upper chakras. And so I have to say, kaphas don't have to modify too much in the yoga environment unless there's a lot of fluid. I mean, yin is not, I don't want to say yin is not appropriate for kaphas. It depends on the class, but I don't know, what is your, yin's a lot on the floor, right?
It is.
It is.
I think it's good for
It's still good. It still opens, yeah. So I don't want to say don't go to yin, but maybe you do an extra vinyasa while everyone else is, I don't know if that's appropriate. I've tried to teach yin. It's almost like I'm moving too much. I say yin. Did you hear that at the retreat? I'm like, oh, we're going to do yin. No, there's no yin.
No, it's quiet. It's very quiet, and you get into your own body.
Yeah. But you're on the floor a lot, though, right? So you'll want to stimulate and move and warm. And so the warm yoga is actually really, it's stimulating, and it is good for the kaphas. So you want to be in a faster vinyasa. You want energy, circulation. The back bends will create fire for you, and they will be good. And you should hold them as long as you can. If you can get into, if you're a kapha and you can get into wheel, go into that wheel and hold it and create that fire, opening up the third chakra. So kaphas need heat. They need that fire in their bodies. Standing poses bring the energy flow up. Faster vinyasas keep the circulation, the vata moving. Back bends will create fire. Core work will build strength and fire. Long inversions, okay? So you want to get upside down. Now this is hard for a kapha body because a kapha body is larger, okay? So how do you get into headstand? Maybe you use a wall. Maybe you do legs up the wall. So legs up the wall is good for vata pitta. But if you're just starting out and you're a kapha, maybe you put a block underneath you for shoulder stand. But you want to get yourself upside down and supported too. So you want to support your body, but if you can start making your way into those inversions, it's a good idea to do that and to start working, because it will open up these upper chakras and bring fire upward in your body. And then the last piece I wanted to mention is that vatas, get down on the ground. Get your feet barefoot in the summer. Get your feet barefoot onto your wood floors. Lay on the ground. Vatas want to create earth, connection to earth. I have lava rocks I brought home from Hawaii, and I'll just lay them on my body, like all over my body, because they give off negative ions and it's rock. So we want to get grounded, and a pure vata will want to create fire, but if you're a vata pitta, be careful with that. The pittas will want to connect with air, so getting outside and taking a walk in the woods, really important, and connecting to earth, getting your feet barefoot as well. You want to connect with earth because there's so much fire, and the earth will cool and ground it as well. And the kaphas want to, again, movement, air, and fire. So like even lighting a fire is really, I mean, we all want to light a fire in the middle of winter, right? Because it's cold and it's damp, so we want to bring in heat and that fire. And so start looking at the elements, because that's what Ayurveda is based on. It's based on balancing your body with the elements. So if you want to email me questions, I can put it up in a couple weeks on the blog. Give me your email addresses here. If you want to be notified, don't give me your email addresses if you don't want to.
What is your website?
Is it not on there? No. Yes, on that. I have some cards. I'll give it. It's www.enlighten with Kim. ENLIGHTEN with Kim. not live yet. .com. Thank you. So in 2 weeks you'll be able to get more information there. I just need some time because I'm busy. Or you can give me your email and I'll let you know when it goes live, when it's ready.
And I'll get. If you send us a message already, then you already have our email.
Yeah, but I can't use it because I sent it through the Y and work that I was doing for the Y. So if I've already sent you an email, I will not use that email because I haven't been asked by you to use that email. So I do need to have your permission and your email here if you want to receive any communication from me. I can stay for some questions if people want to.